What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 118 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And don't forget to join the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. Right now I'm doing a poll on my next ship build, and I based that poll based off of my top requests. Also, some new things I just recently added with the Discord. So how I've been kind of doing it in the past, that if I'm doing as I'm taking suggestions, I'm doing it based off both YouTube and Discord. I think what I'm going to start doing is trying to move that all over to Discord. So if you want to see if there's a ship that or a build that you want to see me do, be sure to join the Discord. I have a build suggestions tab where you can go on there and make whatever requests you'd like, and the community can vote on it. I'm going to be using these to generate my polls going forward when I'm going to be doing community requests. It's not going to be for every single build that I do, but it's going to be something I'm going to be doing a lot of going forward. Also, be sure to check out my discussion video on my U.S.S. Enterprise A 1.1. I'm going to be dropping that tutorial once I hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. But anyway, let's jump right into today's episode. So for 118, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a 47-minute video, and some of this is going to be loose ends here and there, like we were adding the half slabs on each side of the doorways for the secondary and tertiary shuttle bay. But the majority of today's episode is going to be working on fleshing out this area of the neck that we've pretty much just have barren. Now, I had somebody ask me the other day, hey, why are you spending so much time working on engineering? And one of the main things I kind of thought of with the Enterprise D was that, you know, a ship this size, it makes sense that the engineering would kind of be massive. And not only that, there's not a lot of area on the Enterprise D on the interior that has been fully fleshed out. So I just kind of used both of those reasonings to kind of expand my engineering. So engineering is going to be taking up a good chunk of the lower hull as well as the neck, because I really want it to feel like when we're going through this ship that the engineering is the scale of it matches the scale of the ship. So that's a lot of the reasons why we're spending so much time on engineering itself, is because engineering is just going to be several parts of the ship, encompassing the neck as well as the lower hull. Now, the neck isn't going to be solely dedicated for engineering. There's going to be a couple of other areas in the neck. We've already gotten one of them, the battle bridge, but we'll also be adding in the I completely had a brain fart. We'll be adding in the cargo rooms, which are going to be directly underneath the shuttle bays, which will be pretty cool. So right now, I'm just really trying to form the room together. You can see this row that I'm adding right now. I was building that row based off of the deck that was directly above it, having it level. I pretty much just need to decide at this point where I'm going to have the roof. So you can see I've gone down one row below the battle bridge, and this is going to be our ceiling. And we're just going to section it off like that. So pretty much we're just going to fill in this whole row going to the left and right. So this way we have a nice ceiling in place using the white concrete blocks, and we'll be going from there, and we'll be working more on the engineering areas. Now, while that's going, I don't know, those of you that have been watching Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, I got a lot of stuff, a lot of Star Trek to talk about this week, which is pretty cool. I just got a chance to watch episode 2 of Picard and the last episode of Discovery. Talk about Picard first. You know, I actually really enjoyed episode 1 of season 2. I thought they did a fantastic job with it, and it was a lot better than season 1 in my opinion. Just that one episode. Episode 2, on the other hand, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. don't get me wrong, I'm all for the alternate universes, but there have been some truly great episodes that Star Trek has done. Just the TNG episode from yesterday's Enterprise, that was such a great episode that, I kind of have like pretty high standards on what I want to see them do. So I was slightly disappointed with episode 2. I was kind of hoping for just a little bit more. Um, but it was a decent enough episode, and I'm hopeful for the rest of season 2 of Star Trek Picard and where they're going to take things. Um, One of the things I noticed right off the bat with the new season of Picard was that they got rid of just having 50 of the same ships and actually bringing in the actual fleet from Starfleet, which is pretty cool. But that to me, that's just going to be the starting point for it. What I want to see is the original cast come back. That's going to be a main thing. Now, I do want to go back into here and talk a little bit about what I got going on here. You can see them actually tapering down the roof by one row instead of just making it flat. Um, I was thinking about doing that to give it just a little bit of something different, but I think what we're going to end up doing here is just flattening it out, um, going straight across. So we're adding in some sea lanterns here, and let's get the rest of this filled in. I actually thought I edited out some of this, and I think for that reason I might skip ahead just a little bit here. But I want to talk a little bit about this before I skip ahead. I'm not really doing anything fancy here. I'm just bringing this line straight across. I'm not removing anything. I'm just adding to what we already have. All right, let's go back just a little bit here, so this way I don't skip anything. Okay, so right now we are on the deck where the battle bridge is located. Now the battle bridge is going to be a double for both the battle bridge as well as the cargo rooms. Now this isn't something that we're going to do today. The cargo rooms will come later, but we are going to cut out the doorways, which will eventually lead into the cargo room because we have a lot of area to work in on this deck now that we've filled in all of the flooring here. You see, we've already pretty much have it pre-established here with our cut with the white terracotta. Almost like I intended to do this from the get-go, even though I really didn't. This just goes in one of the things that if you look at your builds, and in this case, your the things that you transition area to area. So like in this case, every single time that we have a turbo lift or a doorway, we're always going to have one of these junction points. So having that in place makes it very easy to make alterations like this. So this, in today's episode, it looked like I intended to do this from the get-go, but the reality of it is that I 100% did not intend to do this. But I'm using this area now as a way to get into this into these areas on the left and right side. Now above it, you can see that there's another deck. That's just going to be a facade. We don't have enough room to fully deck that level out directly above us, so we're just going to be ended up closing that off. It's not really a big deal, but it's one of the things I'd like to do when I have my turbo lifts is that every deck that you go up, I at least want the doorway to be there this way to help with the scale of the ship, you know. Because I think that's something that looks pretty cool, and it's also something I just don't see other people doing on Minecraft when they do their turbo lifts out. All right, so we're looking pretty good right now. So we have our blue floors kind of establishing our layout here that's pretty much building backwards around the warp core that's coming straight up. We're not going to be getting rid of the blue. We're not going to be filling in the middle, but on the sides and then the back, well, actually the very front of the neck, we'll be filling that in to add in our floor level. I could be wrong. I actually think that, if I'm not mistaken, the deck directly underneath where we are right now, I don't know that I actually have that filled in. That could be coming at a later time, and honestly, I might not end up doing anything with it. because I think once we get done with this area on the ship, and yeah, I honestly I think this is going to be it a little while for engineering because, well, no, we've got one more episode to do after this. We have to. It's going to be the finishing touches on the deflector dish. But once we do that, then we'll actually be pretty much done with engineering and moving on to other sections of the ship. As we go, we'll be spending a considerable amount of time on the very bottom deck on the saucer section, building out our entertainment deck. This is something that I just kind of decided to do as the build was going, just to make things a little bit more organized, was just splitting my ship up by areas. So as an example, the neck and the lower hull is pretty much engineering, and then the saucer going by deck from the bottom upwards. The very bottom, captain's yacht, the next deck up, which would be the entertainment deck, which is technically the lowest level on the ship, and then the middle deck would be crew deck. And then one up from that is a medical deck, and then primary shuttle bay, and then the bridge. Where I'm currently at in the build right now, actually, the entertainment deck is done. I might come back to it at one point and add in, there's one area I did not do on the ship that I want to do, and that's a gym. I still have the room to do it. I might end up adding it into the build before it's done, but we'll see. Because this tutorial series is already blown up, and I don't foresee it ending anytime soon anyway. But I mean, that's just the kind of the cards that we've been dealt here, building a ship this scale. So I'm actually going to pop forward just a little bit more until we get to a more stable point, where all the flooring is filled in. That you can see in the very middle here on the blue, this is where I'm stopping it. In the center of it, I'm doing cyan for the flooring, and everything else on the sides is white terracotta, or excuse me, not white terracotta, white concrete. All right, we're looking pretty good here. So now we're just making a slight adjustment here to our floor. We pretty much have everything filled in except the very back wall. So I'm not sure how many minutes this episode is going to end up being, because originally this was clocked in at 50 minutes. But when I was editing the videos, I just missed it, because in all honesty, I would have edited the stuff out where I was filling all that stuff in, because to be honest with you, that's just a time waster in the episodes, and that's something that I'm just not going to be doing. So it's something that's easy enough that anybody can literally just fill in a row. So that's the main reason why I'm just not including it in the tutorials. Stuff like that, that's going to be super, super simple. I'm not going to be building it live. Also, like, this will be coming either this week or next week. We have our secondary circular corridors that we're going to be adding in the saucer section. I'm only actually going to be building one deck of it, but there will be 3. But don't worry, I'm going to show you guys how to do all that. I just didn't want to spend a week's worth of episodes just working on those corridors, when once you get the pattern, it's pretty simple to do it. Yeah, because at this point I've kind of been going forward and editing my videos a couple of weeks in advance, trying to get an idea of how long this thing is going to go. But there's a ton of work to do, you know. But anyway, getting back a little bit what we got going on here. I'm not honestly sure what these things are that I'm building right now. This is something that I do when I work on my engineering areas. I'm just trying to add something that looks mechanically inclined. This could be anything from a gravitational field to the shield array. I mean, at this point, take your pick what you want it to be. You can call it that, but really my main goal here is just to make something that looks mechanically inclined, and it looks grandiose over the top, so that when you walk through this area, it feels larger than life. That goes with the scale of the ship. So one of the cool things with that is that we can have a little bit of fun with this. There's, you know, not necessarily a trial and error, but there's going to be a lot of creative freedom to do what you want. Or this is one of the things I talk about, that, you know, really it's dealer's choice in the areas like this of the ship. You know, this is just what I'm doing that I think looks best, but it's not necessarily 100% the right way, and it's not the only way. There's going to be a million one things that you can put in this area of the ship. So if there's something else that you want to do or you don't like what I'm doing here, feel free to do something different. If you do like it, hey, I've gone over all the steps today so that you can replicate this in your area of the ship as well. But it's not a bad area. It's not something that I probably would spend a lot of time on, or not necessarily a lot of time on, but a lot of time in walking around and checking it out. It's just really I'm doing this for the sake of trying to flesh out the ship as much as possible because, this is one of the things that I've mentioned too, that, I've spent all this time working on the Enterprise D. The last thing I'm going to do at this point is just rush through it just for the sake of doing it because this is literally we've already surpassed a year's worth of work, and I want to do it justice. You know what I mean? And I think taking our time is just the way to go. Slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady gets you the most detail, and when you stop and take your time and think about what you want to do and have a nice game plan, your builds tend to come out a lot better as opposed to just shotgunning it and rushing it through, because it's going to show in your work if you don't take the time to plan out these areas on your ships, and to be honest with you, like, you can start these in any configuration that you want as far as your starting point, but one of the things that I'm just a firm believer in, you can start with any room that you want to start with. If you think that the bridge is the most significant, start with the bridge. You think engineering or shuttle bays, whatever you think, I mean, that's cool, but before you get into any of that, your corridors are the bread and butter, because this is going to help you split up your ship and help dictate the layout that it's ultimately going to be. And this is something that's helped me because it ends up being a guide to where you're ultimately going to fall into situations where you're not 100% sure what you want to do, and then you just kind of start looking at the layout and what you have available to work with, and then doing some research. And then when the research where you can't find areas of the ship that you want to add, like in this case, this is just pretty much a filler area for engineering. There's no reference for it whatsoever. I just kind of came up with the idea of having these giant tubes coming up, and that they were some type of mechanical device. I think at this point it would more than likely be like a warp displacement field or something like that, because I want to add in like somewhat of like a water filtration device or something like that on a large scale in the lower back end of the ship, because the area directly behind the deflector dish, I actually don't really have that fleshed out at all. Like what you guys saw in the last episode of that, that's kind of even where I'm at right now, just because I don't know what I want to do with it, And this is just sticking by one of my rules that if you're not sure what you want to do, I mean, yeah, you can throw some stuff down to see how it looks and make adjustments. That's also one of the things I go by. But if you don't even know the starting off point, don't even go there. Just let it sit. Think about what you want to do, and add stuff as you come up with different ideas. That's honestly the best thing that you could possibly do, because one of the things I'm trying to avoid with this build, as much as I can anyway, is backtracking. Because we've already had some areas of the ship that we've just ultimately had to backtrack on, namely with the deflector dish on the outside and then the neck. But I mean, those two areas, I mean, they're such pivotal, they're such important areas of the ship that I really wanted to nail it as much as I possibly could. So that was one of the reasons I went back to redo them, because I'm not afraid that if something doesn't come out right, I'm not afraid to go back and redo it and say, hey, this didn't come out the way I wanted it to, so let's go back and try it again. And that goes for any area of the ship. If I'm not happy with something, I'm going to come back and I'm going to revisit it, and I'm going to work on it and try to make it a little bit better. But that's looking pretty decent so far. It's still missing something. I think what we're ultimately going to end up doing here is adding in a row of glass going around this, which I think would look pretty good. So now we're just going to use the red glass, and we're just going to be going with a cut line. We're not going to be doing a straight row going down. We're sticking with the structure that we have, and we're just doing it on each end of the cut line. Just so we have something just like that. Maybe what we'll do is fill in the blocks in the middle, going all the way down, make it feel more connected. That looks pretty good. Could even do a ribbing effect going along the left and right side of the roof. That wouldn't look bad at all. See, again, I'm going with the cut line. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but I had an idea of starting it, and now I'm just going off of my basic principles of looking at my cut lines, looking at the patterns that I have available, and making it work based off of that. It's guiding me in the direction that I'm basically going at this point. And this is fantastic. This is a clear example on what you can do when you're not sure what you want to do. Because this is one of the reasons why I stick to my patterns, because it's ultimately going to happen for you at one point when you're working on ships this large, that you're going to be dealing with these dead space areas that were never in the show, and there's no concept art for it or anything. You just kind of got to make something up, and you're not exactly sure what you want to do at a certain spot. You know, we started with our idea, and now we're using our patterns to dictate what we're going to be doing. And honestly, in this, it feels like it's necessary too, because now having these ribbing struts are going along the ceiling, it makes it feel more like these pieces were built into the ship rather than just kind of being there. You know what I mean? And it kind of works out in that way. We're looking pretty good so far. We still have a little bit of time to go through. Still about 25 minutes. I shed through a good portion of today's episode, so I know that we won't be hitting 54 minutes today, but it may end up being like a 30-minute or 35-minute episode. I was originally going to split this into 2 episodes, but I just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it roll, because with this one, actually, I stand corrected from what I said earlier. This was actually one recording session, so that's why when we had the areas we were filling in the roof and the floor, that's why they weren't edited out, because this was just one long recording session, which is something that you'll see from time to time. And it doesn't happen as often as you think, where like I'll get on here and I'll just keep going. I mean, it does happen when I know exactly what I want to do. But when I want to take a break, or I'm not exactly sure what I want to do next, I'll just stop recording. So that's why my clips or my videos end up being a lot of clips of building, as opposed to something like this where it's just a continuous episode from beginning to end, or is all done in one session. So now I'm just going to fill in this flooring here. I'm not going to waste the time to do all that live. I just skipped ahead to where we had all this front area filled in. We're going to be working on the deck above. We're just bringing that blue row to the last cut line, but just one shy of the backbone of the turbo lift. Just like that. So I can't cut anything out of that. So what I'm just going to have to do is maybe just go like a row forward or something like that. And now we're going to build our entrance into this area, because this just won't be all open. I want to make this look nice and pretty. So now we're going to start to shape up the room just a little bit more where it's at. So we're going to be adding a wall here. So that looks pretty good. Alright, yeah, I still think this area here is missing something. But before we wall it off with the glass like I was talking about, we need to finish what we're doing in the center so this way we don't have to delete stuff to get in here. So I think the first thing that we should do is what we're doing right now is just going along here and adding rows of half slabs to kind of cut down the height on that block. And then we'll do the same thing with the ribs going along the ceiling, I think. We gotta fix that. That's what happens when you just try to spray down these blocks. This is most of the time why I just do it in a slower pace, because 9 times out of 10 there, as you can see, they're going to end up placing lower, just like it happened to us again. I mean, all things considered, though, I actually, this room came out better than I thought it was going to. Doesn't look too bad, even where it's at right now. For a room that I had no reference point to go off of, and I just kind of threw something together, it doesn't look that bad at all. And rather than doing this whole side live, I think I'm just going to skip past that. Alright, now we're going to add in our wall here. So you see I've gone one forward from the doorway, but still with a cut line. And we're just going to fill all that in. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we're just going to repeat the same process now on the other side. Again, just want to make sure that we're not covering up the white terracotta doorway. Alright. We might ultimately end up doing is this middle piece right here, we might make this one thicker, because it kind of looks out of place now. So just kind of make everything blend together. We're definitely going to be doing that. All right. That looks pretty good. We are slowly getting there. I think we are going to get through this, be done with this room by the time we're through the episode, because from what I recall, what I did when I worked on this, I wasn't working on it very long. I'm pretty sure it was just one shot and I was done with it. But we still have a little bit of time to get some stuff done here. So I'll have about 12 minutes, more than enough time. You can see I'm slightly shaving away at the roof here with access that we had when we built the backbone of the neck. The reason I'm doing that is I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit. Because what we can do, we can do a row of half slabs here going along the top to again trim down the cut line so it doesn't feel so drastic and it looks just a little bit nicer. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. Now this next row here, we should be able to do the same thing. And the reason I'm just not adding a row of half slabs directly underneath it is because I want the transition the ceiling slopes down, I want it to feel a little bit longer, you know. That's just what I'm going for, and it's just a personal preference. If you just want to, rather than deleting those blocks, just add in the half slab, I mean, you can definitely do that. But I do think that looks a heck of a lot better than what we had just a moment ago. And just to keep myself consistent, I'm deleting everything in one shot and I'm adding everything in one shot. This is just to ensure that everything stays as accurate as it could possibly be. And the nice thing about removing this access here is that it's actually opening up some of these windows. Yeah, see, that looks, it's hard to deny that that doesn't look better. I think it looks absolutely fantastic compared to how that back wall looked just a moment ago. It looked incomplete before. Now it looks completed. And you say I stopped right here at that cut line, I went back because that could have been an easy mistake right there to overlook. Yeah, see, that looks so nice and clean. And I wanted to keep that. I mean, we could have honestly just walled it off here and had it flat, but I wanted to have an area on, you know, when we go in the neck, because I want it to feel like we're in the neck as much as possible. So now we're going to be adding in some more windows. Because these higher ones, those are mostly facade windows, but they'll serve their purpose because when we're coming in here, we'll still be able to see, or actually looking from the outside in, we'll still be able to see the inside, which will be cool. But then these windows will function as being able to actually look outside the ship from this deck. All right, looks pretty good. Still need to close off this center here. I think we have enough time to do it. So like I said, I'm trying to remember exactly if I did that in this episode or if that was later on. What I do want to do is I want to move this doorway over by one because it's like right up on that the lip where there's a drop there, and it doesn't look right to me. So we're just going to move this doorway over by one row. It's not really that big of a deal. We just kind of have to shift everything over here a little bit now since we did that. We have to move the blue over by one row, and then we have to move the cyan over by one for the floor. The only thing now, we're going to have to make an adjustment for this going straight back, just so it doesn't look weird. We have to fix that doorway there and add a row of white concrete. So this way both sides of the doorway on the outside going into this room that we're in match. Because in the side that's closest to the turbo lift, there's an extra row of white terracotta. Now we're just going to add an extra row for the next deck up. Okay. We are in pretty good shape. We actually got a lot done on today's episode, all things considered. A considerable amount done. Pretty much almost all the way built out this deck. Still have a little bit of cleaning up to do, but we're in pretty good shape, all things considered. For some reason, I didn't want to fill in this wall where I started to because of that window, but to be honest with you, we probably could have, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. because you still would have been able to see the window from the outside. But for whatever reason, it just kind of tripped me up right there. I just decided to go one back. Because I'm not really feeling how this angle is here at the front. So what we might ultimately end up doing here is just kind of building a wall going along our doorway in this area that we're in right now. So this way you can't see all this edging here. That might ultimately end up being a thing. I haven't actually done that on the build. I'm pretty sure the changes that we're making right now is pretty much the last thing that I did on at least this specific area. Okay. We're looking pretty good. So I thought we were going to get everything done on today's episode, but I think we're going to ultimately end up having to do one more on this specific area of the ship. But that's okay. We still actually got a ton of work done, and I'm pretty happy with the progress of it, all things considered. But I do think that's going to wrap us up today. And I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And of course, new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and also Saturdays. And of course, if you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below. I'm usually pretty responsive in the comments section. I'll try to help you out if I can. Also, if there's any ship builds that you want to see me do, be sure to join that Discord channel. That's where I'm going to be taking the suggestions going forward, and I'm going to be doing this so this way people can actually vote on the suggestions as opposed to me just pulling the polls together. It'll be basically an easier way for me to do the polls now going forward. So be sure to join that Discord. I hope to see everybody there. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. And I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you build in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.